version that I use at the office. I gave that to defense. I don't know who created this PDF version of data with specific things. I did not.
Was it Michael Proctor?
No. As I said, I was the only one that created any Celebrate-related reports in this case.
Well, I'd like to ask you some questions about my client's cell phone, sir.
Okay.
On Tuesday, when Mr. Lally was questioning you, he had you point out and read some text messages that were on her phone between John O'Keefe and her, correct?
Those messages were taken from John O'Keefe's phone.
Okay. Would you agree with me when he was pointing out those text messages to you, he skipped about 40 pages of messages at one point?
I don't know. I believe their text messages went back all the way to 2020 or something ridiculous
Right.
in his phone.
He started reading them and he skipped ahead about 40 pages, did he not?
I have no idea.
Michael Proctor seized my client's phone on January 29th of 2022, did he not?
He did.
And you would agree with me that certainly as of 6 days later, your February 4th report, you had not yet been able to access the content of the phone, correct?
That's not true.
At some point, you were able to access the content of the phone, correct?
Yes, on January 31st.
Of 2022,
Yes.
all right? You later became aware that Michael Proctor was searching through my client's phone in August of 22, correct?
The actual device itself? Or the extraction report?
Either one, sir.
I have, I'm sorry, Ms. Reed's phone?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we
I
didn't,
think John O'Keefe's phone?
yes, that's why I was
I
confused, sorry.
apologize. I'm not trying to confuse you. With regard to my client's phone, which is where we started.
Yeah.
You're aware that Michael Proctor was searching through her phone in August of 2022.
Of the extraction report created, correct.
Were you made aware that on January 1st of 2023, the defense requested a full forensic image of Karen Reed's phone, which was in your possession?
I don't know the date, but a request was made for the phone extraction, yes.
And have you seen a forensic image or Celebrate a report of the forensic image from Karen Reed's phone?
The redacted version that I received back from the AG's office, yes.
Okay. And would you please tell the jurors how many phone calls were deleted from Karen Reed's phone from January 29th of 2022?
None.
And if you'd please tell the jurors, other than to John O'Keefe, to whom did Ms. Reed place phone calls between 12 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. on January 29th?
Her parents twice. There 2 or 3 times there's calls to her parents, and that's it.
And how many Google searches did she do from 12 a.m. until 5 a.m.?
I don't believe there were any.
Okay. And how many Google searches were deleted by Ms. Reed at any point on January 29th of 2022?
I can't speak to that because we got a redacted version of the report, so I don't know what was taken out by the AG's office. I don't know what files they went in to remove, so I only have what I was given.
But leaving that aside, sir, with regard to all of the data that was provided to you, how many Google searches did you see or find that Karen Reed deleted from January 29th of 2022?
A few.
During what time period?
The afternoon, but again, there was artifacts that I found that weren't date and time stamped, and there were some that were with corresponding timestamps, but I can't say for sure when that was done.
Okay. But you saw no deleted calls, correct?
No, not that I know of.
All right. I may have a moment.
Yes.
Sorry.
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bagreino, you were asked about qualifications as far as certifications that you received in prior trainings, correct?
Yes.
What are some of the areas that you received certifications
Cell phone report creation, extraction, cell phone repair, the Berlin Motor Vehicle Forensics, advanced database. The class is called CASA, but it's a Cellbrite made class that goes deeper into the database searching. SQLite programming to write code to do your own searches, things of that nature.
Now, at any point in time, did Trooper Proctor ever tell you that he retrieved Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone directly from 34 Fairview Road?
No, he didn't.
Is it your understanding, or subsequently did you learn that Kerry Roberts actually recovered the phone from under Mr. O'Keefe's body, from the grass under his body at 34 Fairview Road when he was placed onto a scoop stretcher?
I don't know who recovered the phone that morning, but I know.
I'll allow it.
I don't know.
Your answer is you don't know who recovered it?
No, I just know that it was found underneath his body and then taken to Canton PD.
Now, with regard to that, as far as the location data post 6:15 a.m., what, if anything, did you observe in reference to that?
There was some intermittent native locations that showed at the Canton PD. It's there for a handful of different points, and then it shows it back at our office when I put it into the digital evidence lab, powered on to plug in.
You received the phone from Trooper Proctor. Was that either in airplane mode or Faraday back?
I don't remember offhand.
But there were no locations or GPS locations that you observed from the phone from that approximately 11 something a.m. until you retrieved it or received it, excuse me, at 7:30 p.m. on the 29th?
There was, like I said, there was only the handful that showed it at Canton PD, and then when it's back at the office that night, and then if it wasn't in airplane mode, it would have been something I would have done. So I don't remember if Proctor did it before he gave it to me or if I did it after.
Now, the other troopers in your unit, in the detective unit with the Norfolk DA's office, are they as well versed on cell phone extractions and cell phone data as you are?
No.
And so again, how many people within your specific unit actually perform data extractions or forensic analysis of cell phone?
Myself, Trooper Connor Keefe, and everyone has been trained in how to use Cellbrite and to do these extractions. They all just sort of dump them on my desk and say, do this phone for me. So.
Now, as far as what you provide to one of the investigating troopers, such as Trooper Proctor, can you explain to the jury sort of that process of how what if any differences there are between what you're looking at as far as the device when you're extracting the information and what you provide to the trooper?
So when I plug into Gray Key or Cellbrite or whatever tool I'm using to extract the data, it creates that zip file, and then I open it up in Cellbrite or Axiom. The guys are only trained in Cellbrite, so that's what I open the extractions initially in for them. If there's something that we find that they don't understand and that I want to look more into, I'll load into Axiom as well. But that's normally how it would go.
Now, is there any way from the version or the extraction that you provide to the trooper, is there any way for that or any trooper to change or manipulate that data from what is initially contained on the phone?
Well, in essence, you could, but you'd have to go in. So once I create like that UFED reader, which is the portable case, you would have to go into the folders and then delete stuff, which would change all of the data. And then when I would load it up later, it probably wouldn't work right. But that's why we save the encrypted extraction onto the server. So if anything ever messes up, we can go back and reload it, and I can create whatever reports I need with it.
And so from your review of the data in the phones in this case, what, if anything, did you observe in regard to any manipulation of data or deletion of data or removal of data from what you observed? From
the encrypted files that we have, none. And then we didn't have passcodes for the phones for John O'Keefe's until the 31st. And then again for Miss Reed's until, like I said, August, once the program was able to open it.
Now, you were asked some questions about Mr. Green's affidavit. Following your review of Mr. Green's affidavit, what, if any, steps did you take in relation to what was indicated in there?
So as I said, I didn't really go through the phones much when we first got them. I don't know everything about the case as the investigators do. So I got his report and I went through it. And basically just went step by step. So he says, this happened, I went to confirm it. If it didn't, then I need to find out why he was either incorrect or slightly off and either just completely wrong or just misinterpreted the data. And that was it.
And in addition to yourself going through some of the data, who, if anyone, did you contact to assist or to also, in addition, go through the data specifically as it related to the searches for Ms. McCabe's?
So initially, when I first found it, I spoke with Chris Vance of Magnet Forensics. He's their head technical guy for Axiom. He's like their forensic specialist. So he was at the cybercrime conference. I brought him.
I'm going to allow this.
I brought the extraction there and I said, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what it parsed out. Why are we seeing it marked this way? And he goes, well, first off, you have to look exactly where it's coming from. The browser state.
So I'll strike that last part, what he told you.
Okay. Just reviewing the data, we saw that it came from the browser state DB file and .wall file, I should say, at the end. So it set off a lot of red flags. And then from there, we contacted Cellbrite and ultimately Jessica Hyde.
And ultimately, Mr. Whiffen as well, is that correct?
Yes, he came in after Cellbrite. I had reached out to them and they escalated it up and he reached out to us to help us.
Now, with respect to the health data that you were asked about, again, if you could explain to the jury when something in there in the health data says steps, what exactly does steps mean?
As I said before, the phone is seeing movement. Doesn't necessarily mean you're taking steps. If you have the iWatch paired to it, you're going to get a greater level of accuracy. And I would be more apt to believe that steps are being taken because it's going to also bring your heart rate. So if you're taking a large amount of steps, it's going to correspond.
Now, you were asked a lot of questions on cross-examination about just the health data and just the health data. Why is it that you would look beyond just the health?
Well, you have the GPS points as well as the health data. We're trying to look at everything together as a whole. You take one artifact and say, well, this means this, but you could have 5 others that disclaim it. So that's why we look at all of this stuff.
Now, from that same information as far as the GPS data, that indicated that Mr. O'Keefe's phone arrived at 34 Fairview Road at 12:25 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as the clocks or the 3 different clocks that was presented to you that's now been marked for identification, you indicated that those were not accurate. Is that correct?
Well, the file that it's coming from is not accurate. So it came from a power log file. That's the database it pulled from. So it's telling you the power of the phone. So when I looked at that, that also shows the battery level. And that's how I was able to show that, or see, I should say, that John O'Keefe's phone never turned off. It dropped down to about 17% battery level. From being under his body, it was actually saved it from dying overnight. Then it also shows the timestamps of when it gets plugged in and as it goes up. That has 3 different timestamps. That's what that is from. That is not when Waze has started. That is not when the address is put in. That is strictly for the power log. There's nothing to do with anything else.
And so, again, just sort of to that point, what, if any, connection to those timestamps in the the document marked for identification Mr. Unetti showed you? What, if any, relationship does that have to the timestamps contained within either the Waze or the GPS native locations or anything else that you were testifying about before?
It's literally showing that Waze has been opened and that it's pulling power from the phone, and that is it. That is nothing else.
Now, with regard to, you were asked some questions about Ms. McCabe signing a consent for extraction on February 2nd, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Kerry Roberts, she did the same on the same date. Is that also correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Now, the entirety of those extractions from both Ms. McCabe's phone and Ms. Roberts' phones, those were both provided well in advance of the dates the council was indicating, correct?
That is correct.
Now, in regard to the Cellbrite extraction, in regard to Mr. Green's affidavit, Cellbrite has periodically updates the versions of their software, correct?
That is correct.
And if you could Could you speak a bit about sort of the update in those versions and how that pertains to this case and specifically Ms. McCabe's searches?
So the initial report that I created with version 7.53 did not have that item to be able to be taken out. I was told by Celebrate that 7.55 was the version that was enabled. Mr. Green used version 7.61. So that's why it presented itself then.
Can I just stop you there for 1 second? The version that Mr. Green used, was that available at the time that you did the initial extraction?
No, it wasn't available for like a year later. It was like 10 upgrades later.
Sorry, sir, continue.
So again, he did the extraction, he looked at it, finds this artifact that's parsed out, and then I had to go back in and scramble to say, well, why didn't I see it the first time when that report, why didn't it pull? So I reloaded the 7.53 version. It's not there. And then when I loaded into 7.61, it is. So there's just an issue with the software at the time.
So, sir, with regard to those Google searches, what, if any, opinion do you have as to when those Google searches were conducted?
When Ms. McCabe told us that it happened at 6:23 and 6:24. And then there was a third one later at 10:35 that, again, if she reopened that browser window, it's going to reload the search. And then that was it. Those are the 3 times that I saw in the phone extraction that were real searches.
And why is it that you, it's your opinion that they occurred at 6:23 and 6:24 in the morning and not 2:27?
Well, it's physically impossible to search 2 things at once. Her phone, she's searching the daughter's basketball at 2:27, and then she's searching It's Raining Men and a few other things on her phone, listening to music. And I think then she goes to bed a few hours later. So I was told as the defendant asked her to search for those terms, that's when we believed that they were done.
Now, as far as all files are write-ahead log, having things listed as deleted, if you could just speak a little bit more about that as far as why would something be listed as deleted in a WAL file and what does that mean?
Again, the user has no input on how a WAL file is deleted. It's an automated thing that the database does to clean up. It auto deletes after either programs are closed, it reaches a max data allotment for that page. That is it.
And that would include any sort of call log history that was contained in the write-ahead log or the WAL file as well?
That is correct.
And so what, if any, opinion do you have as to those phone calls that you were showing in relation to the contact listed in Ms. McCabe's phone as Coco, as far as whether or not they were user deleted?
Well, again, what the defense showed me was limited thing. I know should be 2 other locations that phone call was listed from looking at it myself. So I don't know why they gave me just the 2 deleted things, but there should be other spots in the database where that phone call was there. So I don't believe that it was user initiated. It was phone initiated.
And that's in reference to the write-ahead log, sort of first in, first out as far as data that comes in. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, again, as far as your unit was concerned, you were the only one who created any Cellbrite reports in relation to any of the phones, in this case, with the exception of the defendant's phone that was created by the Attorney General's office following their extraction of privileged material, correct?
Objection.
So objection is sustained as to the form. This seems a good place to stop. So jurors, we'll take the luncheon break. There is a chance that we may be able to go a full day tomorrow. So just think about that at lunch. If there's any emergency that would prevent you from being able to go a full day.
Sure, it's closing your notebooks, leaving on the chairs, all right, well, all right.
Yeah, so Mac apps. Here it is. No problem. Chris Bates. Yeah, no problem.
You are muted.